Chris, I think that's been a big topic for Beamer. Going back to what we were talking about a moment ago, all off season is just trying to get older and trying to be a little bit more of a veteran team. We, I think maybe even reported at the end of last year or even maybe before that, that a big focus for Carolina, there was kind of this plan that I think Beamer, and he's been pretty open about this, even before last year was over, they started diving into like what has gone wrong? What can we do to try to win some of these close games, to fix what I think we all maybe think is a little bit of a lack of enough leadership. Not that you didn't have guys who were leaders. That's not fair to some of the guys who were great leaders. There just weren't enough of those guys last year. And so a big part of it was to go out in the portal to get experience. I mean, Phil still has South Carolina with his experience chart as literally the most experienced team in the SEC. And, that's not all, as we know, it's not all snaps at South Carolina. That is including snaps, schools from all over the country, right? But it just goes to show you these guys have played ball at various levels in various schools. And, Beamer, we had heard him talk about that, but I think this was the first time I'd heard that kind of little note of, look, there were like 4 true seniors last year. This year, as it projects, it's going to be you're going to have some freshmen mixing in and playing and pushing, but at least as we look at it right now, it's going to be a much older group. And, maybe no spot is it more evident of that than on the offensive line and on the interior of the defensive line. Like, you and I were watching that group, and the eye test sometimes can be deceiving, so let's acknowledge that. But I've seen, especially going back, Chris, and I'm not going to say any names, there were some times over the years, you can go even all the way back to the especially early Spurrier era. The Gamecocks defensive line just did not look like an SEC defensive line. Like that, there were times. Dude, you look at this group that Travian Robertson has helped put together and now has to work with. It is physically one of the best looking interior defensive lines in terms of guy after guy after guy looking that like they can help that they've maybe ever had since we've been doing this stuff. Now, granted, defensive linemen have gotten bigger and stronger and faster and quicker over the years anyway, but relative to what your competition is going to look like. I mean, Noah Clark on some of those prior teams would already be penciled into the starting lineup. Let's put it like that. And now we were watching Christian Ingram and Caleb Williams today, man. 2 guys are kind of just people aren't talking about right now because of the some of the other guys in that room. They look the part physically too, man. Like this is a outstanding look test group. And I got to say, talking to Travian Robertson at Media Day yesterday, it was like talking to a new school Brad Lawing, because Travian, his message to me and directly to his guys was basically, I don't care how talented you are. He knows he said they've got it. They all have some special traits. Everybody knows that. Travian knows that. He said, I don't care about talent. He said, talent does not win games, which I thought was a pretty strong quote in and of itself. A very direct, talent does not win games. He said, now, if these guys mesh together over the next month and put it all together and play as a team and are willing to not only put themselves in a position to succeed, but do the little things that are team-oriented to make the team succeed, you could tell he's excited about the group, but you could tell he didn't want anybody to feel like they've arrived yet. He doesn't enjoy the talk. He said all this is fluff. It's time to go play football.
That is definitely a Brad Lawing yes. And no surprise, right? I mean, recruited by him, played under him, coached under him, all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, and that's the thing, man. Like, so Shane Beamer has publicly drawn some comparisons to the depth of the 2024 group. And they're different players. Like there's some different body types and skill sets. But the reason that group was so good is they were talented, they were experienced, they did the little things and played well together. They also had some depth, right? Going into that season, we felt pretty good about the defensive tackle room, but that wouldn't have meant anything if they went out there and just kind of coasted, didn't try hard, didn't play, didn't gel together. So Travian has a good point. Like all this is on paper right now. Now, one part of it though is, do you have it on paper? If we were going in saying, "Phew, I don't know, Carolina's got maybe one SEC caliber starter and then some guys," you got a problem. You know, it's good. I say a lot, it's hard to scrap your way to a championship. You know, like you have to be really, you got to be, the best teams are very talented, but they also mix that mentality of being a scrappy team. They're tough, they're experienced, and they mix that with talent, you know, and that's kind of what that 2024 team did. You know, that team started 3-3. They flipped the switch. They turned it around. They were talented enough and had enough leadership to do that. And so you hope this group gets off to a better start than 3-3, obviously. But to get where you want to go, you got to make that talent matter. But South Carolina does have it. You know, they've got a lot of different body types. You know, you mentioned Ingram. Like Ingram and Caleb Williams, with where the room is, I mean, if I had to guess, probably not playing a lot this year. But Ingram's 6'6", 300. Caleb Williams is 6'5", looks 6'6", you know, almost 290. Jordan Thomas came from Georgia. Georgia is probably ticked off that they didn't get Noah Clark, or should have pushed for him harder, because he looks like a great fit for what they do. You got guys like that, but then you've got Kelby Collins, who's kind of a versatile 3-technique type. You've got, you know, Gabe Brownlow-Dindy, who's your prototypical 3-technique. You've got, you know, Tomiwa, who I pointed out to you today, looks great and has played a lot of ball and is a fifth-year guy. So a lot of different body types and a mix of like emerging guys and then some guys that have kind of been there, done that in that D tackle room.